Thank you, Prashant. Pari and team, thanks for having me here. One of the things that you realize when you come into these events is the world is a really small place. Everybody knows everybody. And it's fantastic to make those connections. And yes, technology's changed, but a lot of our roles and the impact that we make in our roles haven't changed. So great to be here, and thank you for having me. What I do at Google Cloud is build out our SI, or system integrator partner ecosystem. So many of you who are system integrators in the business, those are the first sorts of people I work with, live with every day. But prior to getting here, or in this role, I worked very closely with Avanish and many other leaders at Google Cloud, building out our ISV ecosystem. So I'm reasonably familiar and dangerous with that ecosystem as well. And prior to that, I was actually in the SI world, running fairly large businesses around data analytics, AI. In those days, digital. Do people remember this fancy word called digital, when companies were on a race to say, hey, how much of digital are we? But I was actually running those businesses, and it's, a lot of it has remained the same, which is technology is changing, and customers and partners are trying to keep pace with it. So if you look at what the generative AI opportunity is, I think there are tons of numbers that people throw about, but this particular one caught my attention. It came out from Goldman Sachs and McKinsey a few weeks ago, and fundamentally said the amount of economic value that GenAI can create is that big number out there by 2045 or so. Now that's great, but if you really think about, or you go into the details of that report as to, well, how do you get to this crazy number? You start realizing that, yeah, that's aspirational, but there is a path to get there, especially when two things happen. And the first of those two things are when models start building the ability to process videos, images, and speech in exactly the manner as us humans do. So multimodal capability is going to be kind of like, think of that as an inflection point to be able to get to this value saving. So while we all get excited about everything that's out there, we are a long ways away. There's a path that we have to traverse to get to the point where the models do really become that capable. That's one. The second one is, and this one's actually been even emphasized by Gartner quite a few times over the last 1 year, is this is not going to be won by models or the largest models or the biggest models out there. A big inflection will happen when models become industry specific. And I think we at Google, we're a big believer in that. That, those two events, when they happen, yes, you do have a path to getting to these economic savings that are being articulated by McKinsey and Goldman Sachs. But with that said, it's not like generative AI is not delivering value today. It is, and across these industries, there are umpteen examples. For example, at Wendy's, they started using generative AI in their drive-through. And it was interesting to see what it did for them and their customers in a very short period of time. It was only speech, mind you, no videos, no images, no nothing, but just speech. But just by the fact that they had that ability embedded into the ordering system, they were able to drive an increase in the loyalty of their customers because the orders were now more accurate. It was much more easier. If you're driving through, you don't have to worry about your accent. You don't have to worry about, hey, what combination that you want over there. It was quite easy for you to just communicate, and the model picked it up. It was able to deliver a pretty accurate order 99% of the time, and it led to a huge increase in their loyalty, to the extent that I think these guys literally hit about 40 million of their customers in their loyalty base started increasing by about 5 million almost every 2 quarters. That's huge in terms of thinking about real business impact. Or for that matter, when you think about Ford, this is an interesting one. And I don't know if Ford will get there or not, but I sure hope they do. These guys are really thinking about the in-car experience, being able to transform their business from the business of selling cars to literally the business of managing the experience or selling a car as a service. Think about it. Think about Ford envisioning a day when they build a vehicle for a fleet operator, right, which is integrated with Android Auto or whatever have you, with Google Maps, with everything else that's just built for a fleet operator to run their fleet, which means it is able to build a schedule every day for the people that are going to be taking that vehicle around and going about their jobs. Or for that matter, it's able to track how efficiently they're delivering. Are they on time? Are there SLAs, and are they up to their SLAs? So you start thinking about these and you start realizing, wow, you could actually envision a day when Ford actually starts saying that, hey, you know what, I could offer not just the car to you, but those services around the car, and it becomes more like as a platform or as a service, as opposed to just a vehicle being sold in a one-time transaction. So there's an umpteen number of examples out there. But the point here is there is value that's getting realized today. While I talked about the inflection points, and we should wait and see how we get there, a lot of commentary around it. Fact of the matter is there is value that's getting realized today, here and now, by customers and across. We hope it's on Google, but I'm sure there are other platforms that are able to deliver similar stuff. Now let's go down to, okay, so what does it mean for the partner ecosystem here? So one thing about the way we look at generative AI at Google is we don't think this is a battle or a contest or a market about models. This is really a platform conversation. And by that, let me explain what I mean. So we look at the opportunity right from the infrastructure layer to a layer where you are building agents and applications. So let's start at the infrastructure level. I don't know how many of you know this, but 90% of AI, generative AI unicorns are building their product on Google Cloud. It's not a commercial. I'll tell you there's a good reason why. The reason is the price points that we offer with our TPUs are extremely competitive. And so we are building a model to train it. You have a choice of doing it on a GPU, or you could do it on a TPU and get it at an extremely competitive price point. That's driving that sort of momentum we are seeing. And so that's a very viable partner play. And so for folks in the room who are ISVs here, I'm sure you want to consider that, hey, if you're going to build a model and you're going to train it, there is infrastructure that's available, competitive, and purpose-built for AI. And we've been building this infrastructure not since GenAI happened, but for years now. And for years when you used Google Maps, which showed you the best route to get to your destination, or you were using Google Email, Gmail, and it was auto-completing your sentences, it was running on that infrastructure. So it's proven, tested there, and therefore there are companies that are trying to use that. That's the value prop for the ISVs in the room. If you go a little up on the layer, on the stack, clearly the model layer, right? And here again, we have our own models, the Gemini class of models. But the more important thing is we have taken the step that, hey, look, at every layer of the step, we are going to have partners being able to play. So besides Gemini, the fact of the matter is today on our model garden, there are 100+ models. And those include Llama, those include the ones from Anthropic, Mistral, you name it, there are models out there that you could start using. So as a builder, we all realize there's no one model that fits all sizes, but you could choose an ensemble of models to build out the business use case that you want to build. And there are customers that are taking great advantage of it. But there's one interesting data point which Sundar talked about in our last earnings. This is now picking traction. It goes back to the business value that I said. We have seen a 14x increase in Gemini API calls in the last 3 months. Just take that number up. 3 months, 14x increase. It tells you people are using it. It's no longer pre-prod or development work. It is pure production use cases. Let's go up the step a little bit. All of that model's great, but we all realize that for those models to work, you need data. And here's one interesting thing. Google's BigQuery product has been pretty, it's made quite a big impact out there simply because, number one, it's being able to handle multimodal data. But the more interesting thing is it's able to bring the model to where the data is in a very, very performant network and a sub-latency interaction model. And so therefore what's happening is people are able to use the data, not having to build out different data lakes, et cetera, and run these models, no matter ours or anybody else's, on top of that infrastructure right away. And so if you're a partner in the room, think about it. If you're helping your customers transform and drive down that journey, you have the ability to help them get there sooner by using the models, using SQL maybe sometimes, or even natural language to build out these models on top of BigQuery. And quickly, I'm being shown the flashcard about I'm running out of time. But the last piece of the stack is really agents. So without going too far down here, the agents, of course, are things that all of us are hopefully in the business of building. We'll soon get there. OpenAI announced something today, which is pretty exciting. We have had the ability to have business users build agents for a long time now. So, and customers are doing it. These are agents that are enhancing the software development lifecycle. Amazing results out there. Use a 1.2 million context window and you start putting all your code base over there. It can reason, it can inference, it can improve the code, it can document the code, it can write unit test cases. It's just amazing. So if you're an SI in the room, think about that, how quickly and how much it can improve your ability to develop code. And for all of these, we've got programs that bring incentives to the table, tools to the table, and the tooling part I'll dwell on a little bit later. And of course, there's a tremendous amount of traction in doing training and certifications and activation of your resources, not just developer resources, but also your sales, pre-sales resources who want to know how do you position generative AI in the context of an industry with a value conversation, not just a knobs and dials conversation. The last slide here, partner enablement starts well before a partner shows up at a customer to get a project done. We believe in that philosophy. And so if you think about it, we start by saying, hey, Mr. Partner, their size in the room specifically, we'd love to engage with you to look at your tooling. Think about it. All of you have tools that can migrate data warehouses, do whatever it is. But these are probably not AI-enabled. We love to bring to the table an AI-enabled conversation on how do we get your tools better. So it starts well before. And then it goes down to the fact that, okay, what methodologies do we use? What sort of process do we use to get these projects done? Again, there's prescription available, data available, methodologies available. And then through the life cycle, whether it's tooling or using methodology, down to the point where you are in the project and things are not happening as planned, how do you get the attention of Google experts to help you? So the partner help desk gets you there. Use cases runbooks helps get you there. So in summary, all I'm trying to say is there's a huge opportunity. There are inflection points, but there are people that are taking advantage of the opportunity here and now. Number two, this is a platform play, not a model play. And so no matter who you are in the room, you have a point of interaction with us along the stacks of the platform. And number three, we take you through this journey way before the whole conversation starts with the client through some of the processes that I mentioned over here. I'm sorry I ran over, I know, but here we are, I'm done. Thank you.